G'day guys, welcome back to TRT Podcast. This is our Q&A special where you guys can send in questions and I'm going to do my best to answer them for you. So what to do if you feel you have a compensation pattern in your body of protection because you have an injury that you know you're going to have to block or restrict yourself in the moment of riding, and you know that your horse has a poor feeling from that, and that makes him insecure, and you know before you get on and ride that because of the feeling, the state of your own body, that it's not going to give a good experience for both you and your horse. How do you overcome this? I can speak from experience because using my body as a vessel for work for many years, being that guy that works a lot of problem horses. In my younger years, of course, I was doing it in a hard way, working as many horses as I could to try to build a business and to, build a reputation and to also get experience, taking on these horses and challenging myself further and further. You take on more and more difficult cases. You pay a lot of attention to the techniques and how you're riding and what you're doing with the horse, and you spend little attention to yourself. And of course, using your body for a vessel for work, at some point the body starts to break down. So I had many difficulties. My right leg is metal, a horse accident, a horse falling on top of me. My femur was snapped in half. I had a compound fracture of my femur, the thickest part of my thigh. The horse rolled over me and it twisted my foot around. I looked down and my heel was on one side and my toe was on the other, and I had a bend in my thigh and a bend in my knee. And they had to take out a piece of the bone, and so my right leg is shorter. So then I got in a compensation pattern, always in protection, always feeling that I was holding myself on one side. And a lot of the time, went through a period of getting on some of my students' horses and saying, well, for starters, your stirrups aren't the same length, not realizing that actually one of my legs was shorter than the other, and getting into a compensation pattern and then feeling, and after a while, when you carry these discomforts in your body, you can actually be in a compensation pattern that you're unaware of, a sort of a little bit more tension on one side, a little bit more twist, a little bit a lack of alignment in your body. And of course, if we want to be super in balance, because we want our horses to be super in balance, and we don't want our horses to have any blockages, any tension in our body, then it's important that we also don't have that. So there is a part where, of course, we need to be able to work on ourselves. We need to be able to stay flexible, and it is about us. And sometimes we're quickly sort of saying my horse is misbehaving and he's not in balance and he's struggling, and not realizing that it's actually our posture and it's the compensation pattern that we're in, that we're directly transferring onto our horse. Or maybe we're super aware of it, as in this case, that you're not feeling that comfortable, but you know that if you go to your horse and you have a successful ride, that it's going to help your body to become loose, and it's going to help your mind to get more positive. You're going to become more happy with the experience, and that's why you have your horse, so you can go and have those nice interactions and you feel better mentally, physically, and that's why we have horses as a part of therapy for ourselves. So what's important is, of course, aside from working on ourselves and becoming better and becoming more flexible and keeping that balance in the best way we can to become the best versions of ourselves, to become useful to our horses, there is a process that you can go through in order to start the conversation in a place that is going to build a dialogue in which your horse can understand. It's a teaching to him before doing to him. It's a setting the tone for the conversation. It's having an interaction and a connection where you understand each other's energy on that day, the balance on that day, the order and form of the movement patterns of your body. And these things are really important for you to understand, but also for your horse to understand. And it's starting in a place where you can get onto neutral ground. And you may not be a person that has a specific injury or really specific pain in your body or a discomfort. You could just be tired. You could just be stressed. You could be coming to your horse having not ridden for a while, and you're so enthusiastic that you're like, oh, hang on a minute. I've got to calm myself down. Otherwise, my horse is going to be thinking, what the hell is this crazy person doing? So the preparation of the mindset for me is really important. So it's being aware of yourself. So taking that moment before you go to the horse, you may even sit outside his stable. You're coming out of your car, you're walking into the stable, you're preparing yourself. The preparation for yourself shouldn't just be putting your boots on and your helmet on, getting your gear, but really tuning into yourself. How does my body feel? What parts of my body might I be unconsciously holding? How can I already go through a system of creating a tension release program for myself? So being able to have some awareness, feel where your energy is, the direction of energy is. We use always that example in TRT with that visualization, simulation of all the little polystyrene balls that live inside your body that represent energy. And you can get a very good flow state of energy through your body by visualizing when you're high energy and everything's in flow state and it moves through and there's no restriction, no blockages in your body. You know, all those little polystyrene balls start to light up and they start to become green, and then they start to move and they start to flow up and down through your body. Like there's a small amount of air that comes through the ground and starts to move them as a circulation through your body. And if you start to feel that there's certain parts of your body that's not allowing energy through, in or out of your system, you know, some of those polystyrene balls might be more orange or they might be red, they might be clumped together. Being able to do this visualization enables you to open up the physical connection with your mind and your energy to create good circulation so you have a good projection of self towards your horse. So this is just sitting or standing and feeling where the energy is, sometimes moving a little bit in the form that you will be if you're riding or going into the next phase we'll talk about, which is the groundwork part, and you start to feel your body in this conversation with yourself so that you're not unaware of where you have a blockage, and that when you start to talk to your horse, you're kind of feeling the discomfort in yourself and you block yourself and you have a frustration with yourself, and then you talk to your horse and he hears a frustrated, blocked version of yourself. And what does he do? He either mimics that or he gives you the mirror back to say, hey, you know, well, you're kind of bringing your handicapped self to this conversation and it's not going to work today like this. So being open and honest with yourself and feeling how you are, having a good awareness of how you are in your physical state, and that you can give yourself a good feeling with your physiology, whether it is 100% functional or not doesn't matter. What matters is the awareness and connection between your mind and your body, and that you create happy feelings because you can feel. Nothing more. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. You know you can feel your body. You have an awareness, and when you have the knowledge, it's not the unknown, which creates uncertainty, or a part of your body that pushes that back, putting it in the back of your mind, shutting it off, having a disconnect in your body. No, you're completely open. And when you have that open connection between your mind and your body, that is what you're going to bring to your horse in the conversation. Doesn't matter if you have a broken back or one leg or 4 arms and 6 legs, or half of you is not working or paralyzed. It's this openness in the connection of your energy, because that is the way you're talking and having a conversation with your horse. It's about the energy. And if he feels that's open and you have a good awareness and connection between your mind and your body, you're presenting an honest version of yourself to him. And your horse will then generally present an honest representation of himself to you. And then the next step is to be able to have a conversation on the ground where you have some distance, where you can meet in the middle, where you have your space of conversation and you go through some groundwork patterns, some mobility, some movement, some forms, some shapes, and you see on a basic level, do you have a conversation where you're understanding each other? You have a kind of flow state where both of your energies start to interact, they start to collide, they start to mingle together, and they start to be able to move with each other and have a kind of symmetry before you get on the back. before you put your foot in the stirrup and go, hang on a minute. The horses can be forgiving of those moments when you've already started in this very positive sense. They get an understanding and a feeling of the vibe in which you're creating in the session you're about to go into. When you can create the good vibe, that is going to be the essence of the experience of that ride that you have with your horse on that day. So that preparation before you get on is super important. And sometimes when we're in a compensation, things speed up in our mind. We think, I just get on and I try to get to the bit where I've ridden my horse and hope that it gave me a good feeling and I get better from it. No, you have to give the time to be able to create the vibe that's going to give you the right experience. And then when you get in the saddle, you have to do something that is very easy in your body, which you've already tested through your visualization. You've already proven and shared with your horse in the groundwork preparation before you get on. That is the movement you do first in order to start the session, the conversation in the saddle from a good point, from something that's successful, that feels good for you and your horse, whatever that individual movement might be. That might be just stroking him on the neck because you did that on the ground and you had a nice little moment. It could be a certain movement where you ask him to go in a circle and you feel supple on your left side and that works really well. You start the conversation in the saddle with this left circle where you both feel symmetry and connected to each other, and you can start with a good feeling and separation to the point where the first thing you have done, you should feel you could end on. Everything after that is a bonus. If you start with that sensation, you're like, that was the win. I got on, I was on my horse, we went together, we did something, we both had a good feeling, an understanding, connection, communication without confusion, and it felt good. Everything else is then just a duration. Do I do a few more things? Do I go make a transition? Do I go in the forest? Whatever I do from there. But it's all based on those elements that we develop in the beginning in our preparation. And it's something that if we practice consciously through visualization, through these basic steps, and with creation and imagination, you can develop some specific ones for you and your horse, depending on your discipline and how much you ride and your level and all of those things, and the feeling, sensation in your body, compensations that you're aware of or not aware of. That once practiced consciously in those steps, it will become part of your unconscious. You start to set yourself automatically while you're walking to the stable. Instead of having to sit and be conscious of it and make an adjustment, you start to be able to feel in the saddle, what is the symmetry I have between my horse and where I should start when I get in the saddle? Or what is symmetry? Because the physical action could change from day to day, depending on your horse's energy, his feeling, your progression, where you're at with the conversation journey with your horse. And then you start to feel that it's the symmetry, it's the connection, it's the interaction, it's the vibe that you have with you and your individual horse that will increase and give you a better feeling every time you're with him, because you create a system that enables you to have that as a reward of being with your horse.